Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have Brendan Mccauley. He'll give a reflection and much more. Welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guest is Brendan Mccauley. He's the co-founder of the Humanum project. He gives talks and retreats, workshops, does some online study groups as well. We're happy to have him talking about the theology of the body tonight.
And it's such an important topic today, especially in our culture with so many attacks on the body of our own identity, our sexuality and relationships. So it is something we need to talk about. And we're now going to a reflection with Brendan.
Who is the man or woman that you want to be? We all have to ask this question. When I was a senior in high school, my only brother was a sophomore in college. He was my best friend, and we got a call on April 10th of 2014 that he got hit with a softball and is being airlifted to the hospital. And this was a scare for our whole family. We instantly packed the car, drove over to the hospital 5 hours away, waited in the waiting room, just not knowing what to think, what would happen if we were gonna lose my brother. And we went in to see him, and he was stable. And I saw a tube down his throat, a tube in his head, and God spoke to me. Brendan, you have two options. One, you can run from this, be a stone rock, don't show emotion, or you can open your heart vulnerably, suffer with him, be compassionate, and to love him. And I chose the second option. I walked over to him, grabbed him by the hand, and said, Kellen, I love you, and I'm here for you. I'll never leave you. And I went and said that to my parents as well. I love you. I couldn't do that as a 17-year-old kid. I couldn't do that. I was sarcastic, but I made that decision. And after that, with my brother's 4 brain surgeries, occupational therapy, to where he's almost healed fully, I went on a journey as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. What is the meaning of this life? Who is the man that I want to be? We all have that question in our hearts. And what I have found that giving myself to Jesus Christ, living according to his plan, is the man that I want to be, and it helps me to live fully alive. So I invite you, give your life to Jesus Christ, and you'll become who you're created to be.
Well, Brendan Mccauley, welcome to Life on the Rock.
Thanks for having me, Father. It's good to be with you.
Now, you're a co-founder of the Humanum project. Talk about some of your work as part of that project.
Yeah, so my cousin Connor Mccauley and I, we live together in Nashville, Tennessee, along with a third guy. 8 months ago, we kind of came together and, what's the struggle right now in our culture? Identity, sexuality, relationships. And we just had this calling. Okay, we need to speak into the lives of youth and young adults on these questions. We're so confused, and a lot of people aren't talking about it as much. And so what we are really doing is talks, in-person retreats, training workshops, in person, but we also do online formation as well, geared to youth and young adults on education and formation on God's plan for making us male and female, what it means to be human, and then equipping them to live it in our world. So that's pretty much what we do.
Right. And you have a master's from the Theology of the Body Institute.
In Theology for Marriage and Family at the JP2 Institute in DC. Okay. And then I have my certification from the Theology of the Body Institute in Pennsylvania. Yeah. That's with, Christopher West.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little about the history of the catechesis on the theology of the body by John Paul II. Its origins go all the way back to the 60s, right?
That's right. Yeah, I believe it was, so John Paul II was Cardinal Karol Wojtyła in Poland, Krakow. He walked into the chapel, and in the midst of the sexual revolution, the sexual confusion, he began to write this work, Theology of the Body, from 1974 to 78 was when he wrote. In the chapel, was going to publish it as a book, gets elected Pope, and decides to use it for his Wednesday audience addresses. So he delivered 129 from 1979 to 1984, really asking these two questions: what does it mean to be human? And how are we called to live that will bring about true happiness?
Right.
And so over a span of 5 years, he was delivering these addresses of where did we come from? What's our origin story? Original man, and then historical man, our wounded, fallen humanity, yet also redeemed in Jesus Christ. And then eschatological man, eschaton meaning our final destiny, where are we going? Only in light of this total vision of man can we come to answers on sexual morality, how we're called to live.
Yeah.
So that was what it was about.
Yeah, I love the big picture. I try to bring it into preaching whenever I can, but to me, it just helps to know where we're from and what happened. Something went horribly off the rails, right?
Yeah.
In the Garden of Eden, there's original sin, and then our redemption and what our destiny is, and our dignity is just rooted in that. We come from God, made to be with Him for all eternity.
Yeah, changed everything. I wouldn't be sitting here today with you if it didn't change my life, so.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. And one thing I love about this is that, John Paul II is this great pastor. He worked with young people. He worked with married couples. He had, boots on the ground experience. He writes this from his experiences, right in the heart of the sexual revolution in the 60s and the 70s. And it just is so important today because we talk a lot about on this show, the damage of the sexual revolution, and this is the church's response. This is like the gospel applied to human relationships, especially marriage and family.
Yeah.
So your own story, how did you get interested in it?
Well, I heard chastity talks in high school, but that was more, it's chastity and theology of the body, they go together. It's more theology of the body sheds light on the virtue of chastity, but that was kind of all I heard in middle school, high school is like, and then kind of growing up, my mentality in regards to sexuality and sexual morality was do this, don't do this, and that's about it. That's how I experienced it. And, wrestling within my own heart about what it means to be a man, I started pursuing God more, and I was looking for internship opportunities when I was 21 years old, and mom, being a good mom, sends me an email, hey, this Theology of the Body Institute in Pennsylvania has internship opportunities. You should check it out. I applied. I was applying to business internships as well. And they ultimately offered me the internship opportunity. And so I went to Pennsylvania in 2017 for 3 months and rocked my world. They put on 5-day courses, these immersions into John Paul II's Theology of the Body. And I was talking with the staff before, and hey, Brendan, have you heard about Theology of the Body? And I was like, oh yeah, chastity, right? And they're like, dude, you don't know anything. And I went into this classroom, and the first day, I broke down and cried, big time. And I cried for 4 months straight. That's what I tell people. It's funny, I'm just thinking this right now. I've been sending emails with Humanum Project and making connections, and this guy from Canada was like, oh, Brendan, no need to introduce yourself. You're the guy Christopher West talks about who cried every day for 4 months. I know you had no need to introduce. It's like, okay, that's how people know me as the guy who. But it was a vision that there was frustration of why have I never heard this? Why is this not everywhere? In schools, in churches, in the home? Why is it so private? Why are we living in just shame and self-pitying ourselves from the mess that we've created rather than opening it to healing and knowing that there's real redemption in this area of our lives? And so there was a frustration, but then a calling, I need to tell everyone, so. Yeah.
And part of your story, you had a profound experience on a retreat and everything when you were younger. And I like the growth that you see in you, to learn this and how it really spoke to your heart. Give us the elevator pitch of what Theology of the Body is.
Yes, so
you look like you could do that, just the way you're dressed, everything, you got it all together. So.
Yeah, the Theology of the Body pitch. So we just chatted briefly earlier before this, where a friend at my brother's wedding came up to me, Brendan, he's not religious. I'm hearing about this Theology of the Body stuff you're doing. What is it? Give me the 2-sentence pitch. And I said, here's the 2-sentence pitch, or maybe it's 1 sentence. Our bodies, as male and female, reveal the mystery of who God is, the mystery of who we are and God's plan from all eternity. And so on this immersion experience, Christopher West was bringing to light that God is love. He's a communion of life-giving love, 3 persons, 1 God. And John Paul II says, it's as if God went in himself and said, let us make man in our image and our likeness. Male and female, he created them. Inscribed in the sexual difference is a call to holy communion that perhaps 9 months later, they'll give a name to. And God is not sexual, but our sexuality, John Paul II is bringing to light, called to holy communion, is an even greater image of who God is because he is communion. Right. And that our bodies is meant to be an icon, a little glimmer, something that's beautiful that leads us into the heart of God. And for me, I was experiencing that on this retreat. That's what changed everything for me. Because growing up, it was like all my friends, not all my friends, but a lot of them were starting to sleep around. Hey, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this. And in my heart, I was pulled to want to use and to lust. And I even told my girlfriend that. One day I just broke down and I was like, I'm using you. And I didn't know how to love because on the other hand, it was like, wait until you're married. Don't do this. We're not talking about it. It's private. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, this repression or indulgence mentality, what's the best option? And John Paul II, and on this course that I learned, there's a third option. It's not to stop at the surface of the body, skin deep lust, but it's to widen your senses, to widen your vision, to see that the body is a sacrament of the person who is an image of God. And God instilled in my heart purity of heart. It was crazy. It was miraculous. That's why I cried. And I was seeing women not as objects of lust for my own pleasure, but as icons of the mystery of who God is. And I was like, this is real. Right. And so can I share a quick story?
Well, let's take a quick break. They're telling me we have to break, and we'll be back, and we'll come back with the story.
Okay.
Okay, Brendan, you got a story for us.
I do have a story. So after this course, after this summer internship, when I was just seeing everything differently, I had to tell everyone. And so this is a story I kind of tell people where if I was on a plane or train, if I was taking an Uber, if I was anywhere, I would try to maybe spark up a conversation with the person and tell them about how good they are, how beautiful they are. And one day in Pennsylvania, I was taking an Uber back to the train station. And she said, hey, where are you going? I'm like, I got to get my studies. I'm studying at the John Paul II Institute. She's like, oh, what are you studying? I said, have you ever heard of a teaching called theology of the body? And she's like, huh? Like, no. And I was like, do you have a faith? Are you Christian, religious? She's like, no, I'm agnostic, no faith. And so I asked her a question. Said, what would the world be like if we all looked at one another the way in which we look at a sunset? Because the theology of the body reveals that the human person is the crown, the most beautiful of all creation. What would the world be like? And she's just like, oh my gosh, everything would be so different. And I told that story at Washington State University at the St. Thomas More Newman Center, where I was a campus minister. And a year later, one of my friends, a college student at the time, and was now studying law at Gonzaga, said, Brendan, that changed everything. What if we look at one another like a sunset? He's like, I have a story I need to tell you. I was like, okay. And he said, one day I was at a bar. Me and a couple of the law students, we went out, we had a couple drinks, and one of the women said, hey, Ken, could you walk me home? It's late, it's dark. I don't want to walk alone. He's like, sure, I'll walk you home. So he walks her to the doorstep and says goodnight. And she says, Ken, would you like to come inside to have tea with me? And he's like, what is she wanting? Tea, late, couple drinks, but he wanted some tea. So he went inside to have some tea with her, and he said, Brendan, in that moment, right when I stepped in the doorway, I remembered what you said. what if we look at one another like a sunset? And he said, I tried to do that with this girl. And so they were sitting down having tea, and he's just like trying to see her for her beauty and dignity. And she's just like taken aback, like, whoa, weirdo. And says, what's your gaze all about, Ken? It's like you're looking into my soul. And he says to her with this gaze, what if we look at one another like a sunset? And she started crying. And she started crying. And that's what I've really learned with the theology of the body and what it means to be human, is that the deepest desire of the human heart is to see another and to be seen by another, to know another intimately, to be known, to be loved, and to love. Like, that's what it means to be human.
Yeah.
You know, to love, to be a gift, John Paul II says, for the good of another.
Right.
That changed my life.
In Genesis, he says, you know, we see it, God saw that it was good, creates this, saw that it was good. He gets to Adam and Eve, right? Saw it was very good, right?
That's right.
His gaze upon.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I learned at the John Paul II Institute, the Hebrew word for good is tov, T-O-V.
Yeah.
And it more precisely means, behold, it is beautiful to see. It's appealing to the eye. So in a sense, God was captivated by the goodness of his creation.
Right.
You know, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I heard, you know, John Paul II made that famous statement about pornography, that it doesn't, it's not that it reveals too much, but not enough of the person. We don't see the dignity. So that the man and the woman image God on an individual level, their ability to know and to love. And you're reminding us that it's that communion, that love union, that specially images a Trinitarian God, right?
Yes, yeah, so precisely, yeah. Alone by yourself, you're an image of God.
Yeah.
In your rationality, your intellect, your will, your capacity to love, absolutely. But we image God more in communion. And that could be just first in friendship, you know, communion with coworkers.
Right.
You know, we're made and hardwired for relationship and intimacy. But there are two ways the church says that you can make a gift of yourself completely, a vowed state that says forever, marriage and celibacy for the kingdom. And and God is fruitful love. He is fruitful love. And that's why, in the created world, marriage, the one flesh union of man and woman, and that fruitfulness that comes about gives us a little glimmer into who he is.
Right, right. And let's talk about the body. That's part of the title, right?
Yeah,
Theology of the body. We're very materialistic today, but ironically, we don't really understand that we are body and soul and the importance of the body, I think.
Yeah, we are seeing right now, there always has been an attack on the body, the meaning of the body. But right now we're seeing, I think, an even greater attack. I mean, with gender ideology, pornography, and this movement of you can be whoever you want to be, and the body is a canvas that you can do whatever you want with. Whatever your own whims want to do it. And it's an attack. If it is true that we are a unity of body and soul, the body is very good in that we're created male and female, that images God. If that's real, then any attack on our bodies, on the sexual difference, is going to be an attack on the mystery of who God is. And then, like what I said briefly earlier, our bodies as male and female reveals God's plan from all eternity, which St. Paul brings to light in Ephesians 5, that the one flesh union is a great mystery that refers to Christ's love for his church. So why did God create us male and female? To reveal who he is. Why else? To imprint an image of his plan from all eternity, that God wants to unite with us intimately. So any attack, which we're seeing brutally in our day and age, is going to be an attack on the mystery of Christianity at its core.
Yeah, I think there's a temptation. It's historically been true as well, like you mentioned, that it doesn't really matter what I do with the body. It's just the spirit, it's just the soul that matters.
Yeah.
And we lose that connection, the union of the body and soul. And
it's not scriptural at all. I mean, I'm thinking of, I believe it's Corinthians, where offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, and that is your spiritual worship. That's what St. Paul says. So he's saying the physical and the spiritual are meant to be united. And how do we know that? Well, Jesus Christ, the very person of Jesus Christ, is the union of spirit and the human and the physical, wed in him, that they're meant to be together.
I always say the logic of the incarnation makes sense of the sacraments, that he gives us his flesh and blood to eat in the Eucharist and things. It's how we express love. It's a place of communion for us with others. That the body's absolutely part of us. And,
the body matters.
I can't believe we're out of time here, but we are going to do a second show with you, not next week, but down the line, a couple months or something. So be sure to look out for that. But thank you, Brendan, so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, Brother John, I enjoyed my conversation with Brendan. What did you think? What struck you?
Well, there are many things in the discussion, but one of the things I think that is so important that I think a lot of people struggle with is this feeling of I'm invisible. It's not kind of just being seen or being loved. And sometimes I think that's really just a breakdown in the family that we see, in relationships, maybe at work. And so we can be in a room of crowded people, but not actually know who the people are a lot of times. And I think part of that may reflect our own digital age, our age of social media and all that a lot of times there's something artificial there, rather than that's something that's real and human. So I think there's a wound there that a lot of times we do have gifts and talents, and maybe we feel like they're not appreciated or seen. And that does reflect, some, in one sense, maybe the shallowness of our culture, that, there's a standard of, what I should be, what I should look like, and, rather than looking at somebody's maybe good qualities, their virtues, their faith and everything. So a lot of times those are hidden strengths that can easily just be missed in our world today.
Yeah, me personally, like as a priest too, you meet a lot of people, and I always find interesting just their story, maybe their struggle, their drama of good and evil in their life, and that's always quite moving to me. But certainly, to see the person, not just the exterior, God looks into the heart, man looks at the exterior, but to see their life of faith and their service, and recognize the good there.
Yeah, one of the things that really kind of struck me throughout this discussion is that you hear a lot about this misidentity, like I don't know who I am kind of thing, or what I want. And one of the things I go back to is, religion from early on, from that early education, gives you an identity that you're really kind of born into, really God, your family, a church, a parish, a school if you have one. And those are things that are long lasting. It's not just something that's short and temporary, but really actually eternal in one sense. That God, from the very beginning, will establish that relationship with us. That's what he's seeking after, but we have to be open. And of course, we live in a world where things are fallen. We are wounded by sin. We don't hear that message, or we've heard it 1,000 times. But it's just like we're invisible, or we just have this armor,
right.
And it's not really penetrating through. But to really, I think there's that key point. Whenever we realize, and we see this in the life of Mother Angelica, when you realize that you're loved by God, that's one of the most impactful things, one of the most transformative things that a human can experience.
Right. Well, we'll send you that vineyard with a blessing. May our Heavenly Father shine his face upon you. May he give you his peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock.
In spite of my mistakes, bad timing and confusion, you have a master plan. No matter the guilt that I'm feeling, in the end I will see it was worth it. Our lives are in your plan. I can feel you move, just hearing your heartbeat, to know that you are growing in me. said I'm ready. Purify me and make me what do you want me to be? Said I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah.